You think you've seen tough questioning in Congress? Think again. Benny Thompson just ripped Secretary Kristi Noem to her face, calling out repeated lies, illegal deportations, and broken promises. He didn't hold back, and the truth he exposed will shock you. Stay tuned.
Gentleman yields. I think we've covered everyone. Mr. Ranking Member, you're recognized for a closing statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I'd like to associate myself with Mr. Garcia's statement. I can't believe that we would send somebody or anyone from our country somewhere else and say, well, we cut off all communication. We're a better country than that. And I just thank Mr. Garcia for raising that question. Secretary Noem, at the start of this hearing, you stood here and took an oath to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Then you sat down and dodged the truth over and over and over for a little more than 3 hours, so help you God. You repeatedly testified that you and the Department of Homeland Security will follow the Constitution, the laws, and the order of the Supreme Court. Well, the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution says that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And yet, a federal court found that the Department of Homeland Security, under your watch, believes that it has a right to stash away residents of this country in foreign prisons without the semblance of due process. So you did not tell the truth to this committee today when you said you would follow the Constitution and comply with due process. You also testified that you follow orders of the Supreme Court of the United States and all courts. But the Supreme Court unanimously directed the government to facilitate the return of Kilmar Garcia to the United States. But you just testified before this committee that Kilmar Garcia will never return to the United States. So you didn't tell the truth to this committee again when you said that you comply with court orders and decisions. You've overseen the deportation of U.S. citizen children and have claimed that their parents chose to take their children with them. But you produced no evidence that the mother, let alone both parents, of those children freely gave consent to have their children deported from the United States. In fact, everyone involved in those cases say that the mothers, in fact, did not want their children, especially their sick American children, deported. In fact, your agency lured families to ICE appointments under false pretenses, lied to them, refused to let them speak with an attorney or children's father, and deported them before a court had time to even hear the case. You've given yourself the unilateral right to deport anyone you deem a threat. You refuse to comply with court orders that try to stop you. That puts all of us at risk. Beyond your false testimony about the administration's deportation policies, you falsely stated that the administration is focused on a full range of DSH's missions. Instead, your budget request appears to reflect a view that DHS's sole purpose is to be a border wall construction agency that deports U.S. citizen children with cancer. Your budget proposed cuts to cybersecurity, emergency preparedness, and aviation security. Even before asking Congress for these budget cuts, you've overseen mass reductions in the workforce at CISA and FEMA. Despite repeated requests from this committee on how many people have been fired or have been bullied into quitting before their tenure, DHS has refused to share that information. So it should worry every American that we do not know how many people are left at FEMA to respond to disasters and how many cyber defenders still work at CISA as China and other adversaries attack our systems every day. And you made clear in response to my questioning, you have no written plans for FEMA. It is very apparent that also is no plan for CISA, where you are trying to gut the agency's funding and falsely claiming that CISA is a censorship agency. Since CISA never censored anyone, but now we are all paying the price for you buying into a baseless conspiracy theory. Secretary Noem, I'm glad that you finally came to testify before this committee, but I'm disappointed, along with a lot of my Democratic colleagues, that you stood here and took an oath to tell the truth, then repeatedly failed to do so to this committee. Let me just say, if you dance with the devil long enough, he's liable to follow you home. I hope that you will stop dancing around the truth and start telling the truth so this committee can do its work, helping to defend DHS from the attacks you've launched against it. Mr. Chair,
What we just witnessed wasn't a routine congressional hearing. It was a confrontation between truth and power, a moral reckoning disguised as procedure. Benny Thompson faced Secretary Kristi Noem with calm precision, exposing over 3 hours of dodged questions, false assurances, and broken promises. Lies, illegal deportations, and disregard for due process surfaced under his relentless scrutiny. This was not partisan theater. It was a demand for accountability from the head of an agency entrusted to protect American lives. Thompson wasn't just exposing policy errors. He was exposing the rot beneath the bureaucracy. The stakes were moral and civic. When officials swear to uphold the Constitution yet ignore its mandates, the breach is not just administrative, it is personal, affecting real families and children. U.S. citizen children undergoing cancer treatment were deported. Families were misled, coerced, and denied access to legal counsel. Kilmar Garcia, a legal resident, was denied return to the U.S. despite a Supreme Court order. These were not minor errors. They were fundamental violations of trust and law. The hearing reminded us that unchecked power threatens the very principles it claims to defend. Thompson highlighted how language can be weaponized to obscure truth. Phrases like, "I'll get back to you," or "no credible information" became shields, hiding human consequences behind bureaucratic fog. Files, offices, and silent corridors concealed realities that were morally urgent. When the record disappears, accountability disappears with it. This moment echoes historical patterns of secrecy. Iran-Contra treated exposure as a threat rather than a duty, and the Church Committee revealed intelligence operations beyond oversight. Thompson's confrontation was a modern echo, a reminder that transparency is essential to democracy. Noem's instinctive defense revealed a system allergic to sunlight. She dodged questions and defended selective compliance, revealing how institutions can prioritize self-preservation over principle. Thompson embodied the conscience of governance, insisting that adherence to law is not optional, even for those in power. This wasn't about budget lines or administrative efficiency. It was about whether justice and ethical responsibility apply equally at all levels. When accountability is inconsistent, morality becomes performative, and citizens bear the cost. Beyond these violations, the hearing exposed systemic failures. Budget cuts to cybersecurity, emergency preparedness, and aviation security, alongside mass workforce reductions at CISA and FEMA, leave critical infrastructure vulnerable. These aren't abstract failures. They represent human lives and national security at risk. The public watching this unfold becomes part of the oversight mechanism, reinforcing that governance must serve the people, not evade them. The reflection this hearing invites is both sobering and hopeful. The erosion of truth and accountability spreads beyond bureaucratic walls, but conscience and oversight still matter. Thompson's methodical questioning showed that even entrenched institutions can be held to ethical and legal standards, because when truth is negotiable, democracy becomes theater. When power hides behind process, justice becomes performance. Yet when oversight demands transparency, governance can still serve its purpose. Families affected by these policies deserve more than apologies. They deserve a system that acts like justice still means something. If you believe accountability should reach everyone, not just the powerless, keep this conversation alive. Like and subscribe to the channel.